Hello everybody and welcome to another part of our complete set review of War of the Spark. I am Evan Irwin.
I'm Aaron Campbell.
And I'm Ruben Bressler.
And we're here to talk about all of the gold, the non-Planeswalker gold, and colorless and artifact cards in War of the Spark. We'll go ahead and get started here with Angrath's Rampage. It's a red and a black for an uncommon source where you choose one. Target player sacrifices either an artifact, a creature, or a planeswalker.
This is good. Dreadbore has seen play, Terminate has seen play. Red and black, black does not always have the easiest time dealing with artifacts. Mm-hmm. We now have Mayhem Devil, which is pretty stellar for us. Red typically doesn't have a problem, but this is great.
It's nice. It's not perfect in that obviously you want them to only have one target so you can, specialize exactly what to get. But if they got two good uncommon planeswalkers, you just want to get rid of one of them before they keep getting those effects every turn. This will do.
Really interesting templating and design for this card. It is similar to Bedevil. Mm-hmm. Usually you only have one planeswalker in play at a time.
Right.
Most of the decks that have artifacts in standard are only going to have the one artifact in play. Right. And so you're very easily able to now get rid of an Immortal Sun or a Teferi or something along those lines. Creature, less so, but you're able to pick off a Carnage Tyrant or something along those lines. So really interesting card, and I like it a lot.
Uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah, super, super powerful. Just the modes, it gives you all the different options. Like, oh, well, this time I'm getting crushed by a creature. Got you. In a best of one scenario, this is exactly what you're looking for. It's cheap, it's uncommon, it's not even rare, and it's going to be playable in all of your red-black decks.
Yeah, if you're playing those colors, this is rarely a dead card. You're going to find something to do with it.
And if it's a dead card, then you're already winning.
There you go.
All right. Essence Hydra. This card is really neat. It's a blue, a green, and 3 generic mana for a 4/4 rare Hydra mutant. It has Trample, and it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each loyalty counter on planeswalkers you control. And whenever one or more loyalty counters are put on planeswalkers you control, put that many +1/+1 counters on Essence Hydra.
It feels like they are really pushing Simic to the limit with this set. And even the previous one, you look at Hydrate Crisis, you look at this, and it has... Why does it have Trample? What? Why?
Wow. You can't just stick a 1/1 in front of
it. They're really letting Simic feel their oats, and it's like, wow.
The Trample is just really the tip. Yeah. The tip over for me. After that, wow. I expect a card like the last two sentences, the last two abilities, but I didn't expect them to give it Trample.
True. And the fact that they gave it Trample means that this has the potential to actually see play constructed. I mean, we've seen, I think it was not Colony Hydra. There was a Hydra that when it doubled its own power.
Colonian Hydra.
Colonian Hydra.
Yeah.
So this feels similar to that. It comes in as a 4/4 trample for 5 at minimum.
At minimum.
And if you already have a planeswalker in play, something like, Kiora, which goes from 3 to 5, like this card, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I definitely think that this is the centerpiece of a future blue-green deck with Llanowar Elves and new Kiora, which, by the way, enters with 7 loyalty. So you go turn 1 Llanowar Elf, turn 2 Kiora, turn 3 this as a 10/10.
Wow. That's a thing?
Which is a lot.
Yep. That's a whole bunch. But Essence Hydra in and of itself is definitely a payoff card. It is a bomb rare in the format. You have so many uncommon planeswalkers, you're going to be playing it anyway. Definitely a card that should push you to either into blue-green or splashing one of these colors to make it into your deck. This card
I'm
is
interested
fantastic.
to see what the story implications are of this card because, you have Experiment Kraj, which was the result of an experiment where they had wanted to sort of unite Ravnica and turn Ravnica into this single organism. And it seems like they've moved away from really turning people into the organism, but you're still getting a vibe of absorbing from planeswalkers and uniting with planeswalkers somehow. And so, you see what appears to be sparks, traveling around. Yeah. And so I know that there have been some story points about Vannifar and Zegana being at odds because Zegana's been about sort of slow progression, whereas Vannifar wants acceleration.
The utopian versus the adaptation.
Right, and so I wonder if this is going to play into that somehow, if this is what the Simic were really up to, and Zegana's like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? Because this is wild if you think about it.
Yeah, the political structure of the Simic is the most complicated political structure of the 10 guilds by a lot. There is, what zonot are you from? There is, where are you on the adaptionist, utopian, and Vig scale of things, because those are sort of like 3 different political factions. there's a ton going on within the Simic, and it's and then there's the various clades of the various kinds, which are like Fin clade and Hull clade and Crypsis clade and what's your job and how do you do it and where are you from? There are so many ways to slice and dice the Simic, almost as many ways as there are to combine creature types in the Simic. And this is just another facet of how the Simic are able to adapt and change based on things that are happening. I'm certain that had there not been a giant war, but we'd still triggered the interplanar beacon, the Simic would still have been like, I wonder how we can use this weird Project Lightning Bug energy and funnel it into a mutant Hydra.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges of being in the Simic, according to the art book, is that they've never really had to use their knowledge for military purposes before. Right. It's always been about literally just bettering the self, bettering other people. They are the, the nurses and the doctors of Ravnica. In addition to the experiments, they keep the plane and its people healthy. And so this could be like their version of, while you all are doing, fighting and building forts and things like that, this is our sort of plan. So I'm anxious to see what this means.
Neat. Casualties of War is one of my favorite rares of the set. 2 green, 2 black, 2 generic mana, a rare sorcery. Choose one or more. Destroy target artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. Or all of them. Yeah. Or none but one.
Choose one or more is almost as good as you may choose any number of times from that green card.
Now, Decimate was a card, but you had to have targets for all of it. And I think it targeted like an artifact and an enchantment and a creature and a planeswalker or whatever.
Not a planeswalker. It would artifact, creature, land, enchantment.
Land, enchantment. There you go. So when you have this, which is just strictly better, when you have this, which is an absolute commander all-star, like this is one of the best casual rares I've ever seen.
And it's very Golgari. Golgari is known for being able to destroy anything, really, just black and green. You have Gaze of Granite, Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, Pernicious Deed. That's just sort of what Golgari does, and this is incredible.
Yeah, this is just, if you're in black and green and playing Commander, you're going to play this card. Yep. This is the perfect type of card that you can get now for $1 or less. And then 5 years from now, it's going to be, $10 or whatever, because everybody wants a copy of this card in their black-green commander decks because it's amazing. Yeah. Screw that and that and that and that and that and that.
Those 5 things in particular. Screw those. Yeah. Yes. Really interesting. Great name for the card as well. I'm constantly impressed at the folks who name the cards for their ability to come across these things that we haven't used before, and somehow Casualties of War, common phrase, we've never used it on a Magic card before, and fits perfectly here.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. This is the type of rare I want in sealed. Not exactly the type of rare I want in draft, but I'm definitely not black-green. Like, I don't want to open this pack 3 because it's not enough to pull you into the color, but if you're anywhere close, this is amazing. Cruel Celebrant is next, a black or white for a 1/2 uncommon vampire. Whenever it or another creature or planeswalker you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
This is the payoff card that an aristocrat strategy needs. The first time around you had Blood Artist. The second time around you had Zulaport Cutthroat. This is what you need to give you that reach. Because you're playing a lot of creatures and you can attack and turn them sideways, but you really want to be doing broken things. You really want to establish that engine. And while we've seen a lot of things that have had cool ETB or death triggers, this is really what you want. In addition to getting a counter, getting in a mass token or whatever, if you can do this on top of all of that, you're really playing the game there. And I think this is the piece we need. We've seen quite a few pieces where we're like, we're almost there. And then this card came out and it was like, exactly. And so I am very much waiting to see what people do with this.
I'm also just happy to play this in black-white vampires, which is a archetype that has not gotten the standard love that I anticipated it getting when we saw Legion Lieutenant and originally saw Sky Marcher Aspirant and the aggressive black-white vampires deck that I thought we were going to get. Cruel Celebrant is a great thing to slam pre-combat after you've played your Lord and played a couple of creatures and go to town. And so I'm happy to have this in just my general aggro decks without needing to have a free sack outlet. So.
Now, when Wizards does that kind of like 3 months and just put the pedal to the floor, this to me is like it's another step towards that Aristocrats deck as we have imagined it. And then I'm willing to bet essentially that at M20 they have a free sack outlet. You know what I mean? They finally give you what you've been waiting for.
They give us like an Nantuko Husk again.
Right, and they give you 3 months where you get to go completely hog wild with black-white Aristocrats, and then we move on and everything, all those things rotate. And that's sweet.
Works for me.
That's fine. Otherwise, this is a fine card ultimately. It's not that powerful in limited, but you know, that stuff adds up. One trade after another, one planeswalker dies, they lose a life and you gain one. Incremental damage is still
it gives you insurance against board wipes. You know, you might have done enough damage to them where they would normally do a board wipe to get out of that situation, but they could just die from all the triggers. It makes combat math a nightmare. I mean, it's one of those things that you don't even have to be trying.
Yeah.
But if you are, it's more fun.
The recent versions that we've gotten of this in Constructed are like Poison Tip Archer and Vindictive Vampire, both of which were 4 mana 2/3s. This being a lot cheaper. And not wanting to tangle in combat with those creatures to begin with, really, means that this has a lot more potential, I think.
Right. This is the type of card where we're like, oh, okay. Oh, we know where that goes. Death Sprout is next. Green, 2 black, 1 generic mana for an uncommon instant. Destroy target creature. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library.
You know, I mentioned how I wasn't crazy about the art for Deliver Us from Evil, I think it was. This is You're Forgiven, Seb. This art is gorgeous. And, you know, that's really what the Golgari is all about. I think a lot of people forget that, you know, what they mentioned in that one Bond card, they really do care about the process of life and death. And I think a lot of people see the zombies, they see the overgrowth, and they forget the life part that, you know, they are tending to these mushroom farms and spores, and they are, you know, believing in recycling and reincarnation. And so to see a tree appear to sprout from a corpse is so Golgari, and it's so appropriate that Reed Duke was given this card to spoil because he loves a black-green deck as much as Willie Edel does. And so this is almost like an Assassin's Trophy for yourself, in that you get to destroy pretty much any creature you want, and then you get a land, and that's great.
It was shocking that this wasn't a card that existed already, that we've got this simple combination of Rampant Growth plus Terror, that we staple the mana cost to it.
Plus murder.
Plus murder, sure. The name, the art, the flavor text, all fits perfectly together. This is a 10 out of 10 card in terms of everything coming together and meshing together perfectly.
I mean, the name, the cost is murder plus green, the ability is murder plus rampant growth.
Right.
Like, it's just fantastic. We saw it in play at the pre-release. It was great.
Sure.
Not that I necessarily needed to be convinced,
right,
but it was great. So that's fantastic. This is a card that if you're, again, anywhere, if you're already in black and white, per se, this is the definite thing where you're like, well, maybe
I can stretch the mana a little bit.
Pretty good. We got some gates, maybe. We'll make it work. Dese Park is next. Black and white for an uncommon instant. You exile target permanent with converted mana cost 4 or greater.
This is a pivotal story moment. This is a moment I touched on earlier where Liliana has, you know, used the Chain Veil to shrug off Bolas's influence. She's fighting back against that, and she gets into Okestra and Bantu's head and reminds them who they are. And those two, I would assume they have the same kind of harvesting power that the other Eternals do on a much larger scale. And so those two team up to remove Bolas's spark, where afterwards he is then sent to the prison realm. And so this is a very important moment. And this is also something that white and black are very good at. You know, we talked about Golgari being good at kind of destroying certain permanents or even all permanents at one point, and Orzhov has those moments. We've seen like Orzhov Charm and things like that. This is just Orzhov doing what it does, and it's great for uncommon. Oof.
This card is ridiculous. Exile target permanent with mana cost 4 or greater. This gets rid of the 4 mana planeswalkers, gets rid of everything.
Teferi.
Yep. Lyra Teferi, Immortal Sun.
Arc-like Phoenix.
And for the low cost of 2 mana at instant speed at uncommon, I mean, this is. I would not have been shocked if this was
no
a rare.
Drawback. Yeah. It doesn't have the Orzhov catch of like paying life. It doesn't have the Golgari thing of go get a basic land. It's just it.
Yeah,
it's just
crazy.
Good. Yeah. It's great. I don't know what else to say. Like, this is a card that I'm not sure how many I want to main deck. You know, like I'm going to play my 4 Mortify or whatever.
Right.
But then I'm like, man, maybe it's a couple at least just to start.
Depends on the metagame for sure.
Yeah, this thing could be really, really good. Domelry's Ambush, green and a red for an uncommon sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That creature then deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control.
It's fine.
This card's fine. This card's good. Really good at dealing with the high loyalty, like Watleys and things like that. Mm-hmm. Being a card named Ambush and being a sorcery is a little confusing.
It's a little weird.
But it also gives you your +1/+1 counter to start proliferating. It helps you answer smaller creatures on the other side of things.
To deal with planeswalkers. Normally, cards like this, you fight another creature, and you can do that. It's not really a fight, though. But you can also just choose a planeswalker. Yeah. It's unusual.
It's a rabid bite that's able to take out planeswalkers as well. Absolutely.
Right. This is a payoff card. This is a congratulations. situations, you're in red and green, this is exactly what you want. You want to make your creatures big, you want to make it kill other things, kill other planeswalkers, swing and proliferate for the win. This card is fan-freaking-tastic. Dovan's Veto, not Dovan's Bomb.
I know. How do you not name this card Dovan's Ban or Angwrath's Wrath earlier?
It's true.
Right? Like, how do you not go straight with the puns?
I like the puns, but maybe Wizards doesn't. For a white and a blue, you have an uncommon instant. This spell can't be countered. Counter target non-creature spell. Yeah. That matters in Modern.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, having a negate that you can't fight over is really big. It gets a little uncomfortable when you get to older formats because Legacy and Vintage just have Flusterstorm. So it's like, so you're thinking of like a counter war. So I don't see it going past Modern, if anything. I know the Vintage folks weren't too thrilled with it. It's fine.
It's neat. I mean, I like, the twist of essentially this is the super negate and Dovan's casting the super negate. This card isn't that great in limited. Like, it's hard on your mana, and it can often stop a very important spell, but can often just be a dead card that doesn't do anything because you're just waiting for them to cast a non-creature spell, and you're holding up blue and white for the hope to get them. This card usually isn't very powerful, in my opinion.
Negate tends to be a card that is good in the blue-white flyers deck specifically, those tempo strategies where you want to have those cheap flyers, and this is able to protect you from removal spells. This is not a control card in limited.
Right.
As you get to older formats, it becomes a control card.
Yeah.
And I think it is an interesting card to add to Modern specifically, because I think that's where your counterspell battles are going to most commonly end up. Force of Will and Flusterstorm and Legacy. Those tend to be fewer and further between because the card advantage in Modern means you get to stock up. And so then you get these huge stacks, and Dovan's Veto being able to put an end to that.
Almost Dovan's Ban.
Almost Dovan's Ban.
This card is also better in Sealed than it is in Draft. Yep. Sealed, you're probably going to get somebody. In Sealed, it's slower in Sealed. They're going to stretch for their mana. Yeah. They're going to be like, and you're like, nope. You're like, oh.
I mean, there are a bunch of Planeswalkers, and this is an answer to a 3-mana Planeswalker on turn 2 when you're on the draw. So
maybe it's better in this environment.
Worth at least playing there.
Yeah. Dread Horde Butcher is a red and a black for a rare 1/1 zombie warrior with haste. When it deals combat damage to a player or Planeswalker, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. Slith Firewalker says, what's up?
Yeah. Slith Firewalker was a standard powerhouse. This card will be no different. This card also enables a turn 3 kill in standard.
Really?
You are able to play...
This, the 2/2 with haste guy.
This.
Judith.
No, so I think that the turn 3 kill is this on turn 2 attack. Turn 3 Colossus Thud is 21. I think is what the damage is.
Nice.
I just want to make my drag name Slith Firewalker.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually really like this card as well. This is something I considered for my Rakdos EDH deck. You need to find a way to turn Rakdos on with that sort of pain clause. And so you can just play a really aggressive, 2-drop and kind of get in there. And then, if it dies, again, it kind of has that insurance policy where it's like, here's this thing that I can kill, but it could take something with it on the way out. And so I really like cards, I like red when it's not doing basic red things. And this is another, one of the things I loved about Rakdos and Spectacle was making those choices as opposed to just raw.
Yeah, I think a lot of people expected there to be a Rakdos aggro deck when, guilds showed up.
Fireblade Artist. You can even stack this to the Fireblade Artist.
Yeah, right. But then Ravnica Allegiance showed up, and you're just like, well, there's still not a Rakdos aggro deck. And their Wizards is like, it's cool. We got you. We just had to wait to the third set. Because this is the exact card that it was looking for that strategy, to do what it was doing, to sacrifice for value, like, bop-a-dop-a-dop. This is what you want. This card's great. Elite Guard Mage is a white, a blue, and 2 generic mana for a 2/3 uncommon human wizard that flies. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life and draw a card.
Seems good.
This is your payoff for blue-white flyers.
Yeah, this card is above rate in a number of... It's like just barely above rate in 4 different ways.
Yeah.
Because it has a higher toughness, it has flying, it gains you a life, it replaces itself. It doesn't do any one thing super insanely well, but it does just enough in just enough places.
This reminds me of the card from Kaladesh. There was something that did something similar, blue-white.
Cloud Blazer.
Yes, and this is just begging to be blinked and just, oof.
I mean, as it should be, but yeah ultimately, and there's that Teferi's time thing that can blink it, which would be great. So you have a lot of really cool, the battlefield abilities. This is your payoff card for blue-white flyers. If you're playing the blue-white flyer deck, congratulations, this is your number one look to uncommon. This is what you want to open. And it's freaking terrific. Speaking of freaking terrific, Enter the God Eternals is here. A black, 2 blue, and 2 generic mana for a rare sorcery. It deals 4 damage to target creature. You gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. Target player mills 4, puts the top 4 cards of their library in the graveyard, and then you amass 4. This is just like awesome. Everything rules.
Yeah.
All of these things are great.
Yep.
And these things answer the stupid gods that you can't get rid of. It answers the God Eternals. It kills something on their board. It brings you back in the swing with a life. And then it makes your mass zombie token huge. Like, it was a gigantic blowout at the pre-release when I saw this thing cast. And I was not surprised. This is just
very similar
awesome.
to Ribbons of Night from the original Ravnica, in that you gain 4, deal 4 to a creature, get some additional value. This obviously also making a creature, so it's a lot more like a Flame Tongue Kavu in that way. It's just a very good card. I saw people trying to compare it to like a smaller Cruel Ultimatum or like a Dark Intimations or something along those lines. That does not grok as similar to me as it does to Ribbons of Night, which I have a lot more experience playing with. Ribbons of Night is like maybe the best uncommon in Uncommon Cube. And so I would not be surprised if this saw standard play.
Oh yeah.
I also really appreciate Enter the God Turtles.
Nice.
As the name for this card.
I've seen people describing this as in the green section, we talked about that mid-range card, that if you're able to survive the early game, you need something to bridge you into the late game. And this is the card that can help you do that. I've seen some really big praise around this card, that if you're able to make it to 5, kind of like Cryptic Command, you're at a whole other ball game where it's like they do this and you just come right back and you are now in the, you've transitioned over to the late game. And so I think it's really exciting. This was also the card that really confirmed that the God Eternals were happening, until then there was speculation, there was a grainy poster. I remember the article that I think Doug Beyer had wrote introducing this card, and I love the way he described it, where, this is again going back to Bolas not really understanding, or maybe understanding, how morale works, where you send the Eternals, they fought them off, they're feeling really good about themselves, and then here are the God Eternals that are a whole other ball of wax, and you wanted that feeling when the villain steps it up a notch, and this card really communicates that.
This is the type of rare that to me says amass is a thing in standard. This card just brings you back totally. Like, you're down and out, you're hurting. You rip this card, you kill their thing, you gain 4 life, you put in a 4/4, and you milled their stupid god that you finally answered away. Like, that is a complete turnaround of the game, and that's how powerful this card is.
This is a playmat at one of the up-and-coming GPs, which is going to be great. I think it's Madison, in fact, so I'll be there, and I'm really excited about that. And, 4 for the 4 God Eternals.
Now, does this actually work that way? It mills the gods? Is that how are the gods worded?
They're in the top 3. You just put them in the top 3, but it doesn't say if it's put in the graveyard from your anywhere.
Right, but it's a replacement effect, so it happens before the card. It doesn't say when this card is.
No,
it says if it would be.
If it would be, if it would go to the graveyard or be exiled,
right?
Then do the thing.
Interesting.
So this will mill them away.
I thought that it was a trigger, so that this would happen and then the card would go back in. But this actually deals with them permanently.
Right.
I didn't realize that. Cool.
Which is the thing. Well, you also do it in the
order. Yeah.
Right. So, again, if you were to deal 4 to like finish off the Raise God or whatever, and okay, cool. Well, it goes to there. Okay, then we mill it. So it's really, really sweet. This card is absolutely fantastic. If you're anywhere near these colors, or if this is your pick one pack one, I would not, be like, wow, you made a big mistake, picking one of the best cards in the set.
Yes.
Speaking of one of the best cards in the set.
Oh my God.
Jesus. Feather the Redeemed is amazing. 2 white and a red mana for a 3/4 rare legendary angel with flying. 3 mana, 3/4 flyer. Let's just start there.
Already good enough.
Already good enough. But we gotta have a sick ability, right? Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature you control, exile that card instead of putting it into your graveyard as it resolves, and if you do, return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step.
Yeah, this card needed to be good, or the Vorthoses would have
lost their mind.
Tarred and feathered someone.
Yeah, it did.
That was a good punchline indicator that you did.
Nice.
The slow lean.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this card is amazing. I mean, the artwork in particular, 3/4, which you'll take. It has that weird kind of mismatched power and toughness, which makes sense when you look at Aurelia. And you also look at the red-white board wipe, which I'm sure we'll talk about, which relies on power and toughness being matching. She can't die to that, which is really cool. The idea being that somehow means that you're, pure, I guess.
But all the angels in that way in Ravnica don't have the same power and toughness, which is really cool. This is the reason that, you remember the card Crimson Wisps? Remember that card?
Yes.
Yeah. It's $4 now.
Jeez.
That's a common.
That's a common from Shadowmoor?
Mm-hmm. Hey, all it does is give something haste and you draw a card. But with Feather, no.
You get to draw a card every turn. Yeah.
You get it back and you get to do it again.
I saw there was a buyout on Balduvian Rage, which is an uncommon from Cold Snap that is now $10 a piece. That slow trips. And so you get to rebuy it with Feather. This is a card I'm very excited to give a shot in Standard as well. Things like Samet's Sprint, particularly going with Feather extremely well.
What's it called?
It's Samut's Spirit, thank you very much. But no, this card is just unbelievable. I can't, we are so spoiled. A 3-mana 3/4, we're like, well, then what does it do?
Right.
It's like, it's a 3-mana 3/4, why don't you just shut up and play it?
I seem to recall there being some rules implications with flashback.
Okay.
That I wasn't really clear, but I think it doesn't work the way people intended.
Well, it exiles as a cost to play in it, I think. I'd have
Flashback
to
exiles as a cost.
So if it's already in your graveyard and you flash it back, it's exiled, and I think it can't come back. If I
it would be like
correctly.
it's like remanding stuff that has flashback. It just removes it permanently.
Yeah.
Right. So, and this just wouldn't get it back because right there it says instead of putting it into your graveyard, your flashback spells never go to your graveyard.
Right.
So that's the thing. But Feather is just unbelievable. Gleaming Overseer is next to the black and blue and generic mana for a 1/4 uncommon zombie wizard. When it enters the battlefield, amass 1, and zombie tokens you control have hexproof and menace. This is a constructed worthy card. I don't know if you knew that, but
how in the world, like, I feel like they would have printed this as 2 cards, right? One of them gives hexproof, one of them gives menace.
Right.
But then they ran out of room in the set, and we're just like, we'll just make this an uncommon. Yeah.
We'll just put this extra word on here. And
guess so.
Maybe add a toughness or something weird.
Crazy.
Yeah, this is a payoff card for the Amass deck. This is one of the payoff uncommon cards for that deck if you're drafting it. It's just terrific. If you're in black and blue, you play this 100% of the time.
Applies to any other zombies that you've got going on.
Yep.
Yeah, so any other zombie tokens you're making, this is right along with it.
You can blink it.
Yep, this card is awesome. Heartwarming Redemption is a red, white, and 2 generic mana for an uncommon instant. You discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many cards plus 1. You gain life equal to the number of cards in your hand.
Now listen. Why did this have to be 4 wizards? Why are you playing? When I saw the text on this, I was like, oh my god!
It's card draw in red and white.
It is card draw in red and white.
This is Wizards learning from Cathartic Reunion, because you know they work. Can you imagine this in Dredge?
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Barf.
It's also the most heartwarming card since Cathartic Reunion.
This reminds me of like old school like Italian paintings. Like when you go to an art museum, that's the feeling that I get from this. Like this is a style of art that we don't see a lot, and I love it. And it conveys so much emotion there of, Gideon kind of finding his afterlife and being told that, you spent your whole life in conflict. Well, now you finally get to have some peace. And so this card is great. It's everything I want to be doing, but 4 is so much.
Are you saying he's living his best afterlife?
He's living his best afterlife.
I tell you, if this had been like 2 mana less or even 1 mana less, whoo.
If this had been 3 mana, it would have been constructed playable.
Yeah, it's very close. I mean, it's like
close.
It's right there, but I don't think it's quite there. Red, white, drawing extra cards in red and white is just not really seen, and they don't do it much. And so when they do it, you really have to pay for it. Being able to filter out your hand is still really cool, though. That's really neat.
Yeah, a wheel effect.
But Howard Lyon is a treasure, and we are lucky to have him. Watleys Raptor is here. It's a white and a green for a 2/3 uncommon dinosaur.
It's so good.
And when it enters the battlefield, you proliferate.
100% constructed playable.
This card
unbelievably
is 2
good.
mana.
2 mana for a 2/3. We used to play Elvish Warrior. And we liked it.
And we bragged about it.
And we bragged
you
about
get a grizzly bear, not a dinosaur with vigilance
with
and
vigilance
proliferate.
and proliferate.
That you can blink
so
and
much. Yeah, this is. I would be shocked if this did not end up being a constructed playable card. I don't know what the strategy is that wants it. Dinosaurs never really got there.
No. Never did.
And this is not the card that makes dinosaurs get
Although
there.
we have been keeping up a legacy coverage this weekend, and mono red prison dinosaurs was at the top table. So there's a will, there's a way.
Cavern of Souls named Dinosaur. Chalice on one.
Can you imagine your opponent's face when you say that?
Oh, there was a picture of the guy that you couldn't make. He was like,
look, I've played that deck with humans on the Cavern, and I played like a Hanwire Watch Keep and some other unplayable garbage.
Jesus.
So, charging Tuscadon and charging Monstrosaur aren't that far out of the realm of possibility. With that said, Watleys Raptor not going in that deck.
Take my 50-cent uncommon from Ixalan and my $70 Chalice of the Void.
Go play somewhere else.
That's amazing. This is a card that is in the green-white builds, and this is another one of those payoff uncommons. If you're in green and white, this card is just too good to ignore. If you're playing the crazy 5-color shenanigans, this card is too good to ignore. There's just nothing wrong with this card.
How does Proliferate work with sagas?
I mean, it adds another counter. When you add a counter, you fire off the chapter. So, yeah, you can do it if you want.
So let me get this right. So let's say you had a saga.
Yeah.
It came into play.
Yes.
You immediately do its thing. Next turn, you take it
chapter,
down.
No, you chapter 2.
Right, but you get chapter 2.
They go up.
Okay.
Chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3.
You go to chapter 2, so you get the chapter 2 effect. Then you play Watleys Raptor, bump it back up, and you get that one too?
No. You're going to bump it to 3.
You're going to bump it up to 3, and then
the
saga will sacrifice.
The final saga thing.
Okay, see, I didn't know if manipulating the counter still got you the effect.
It will.
It does, but they only manipulate upwards.
Okay, got it.
Right. There's a common, for example, there's a 2/2 in red. There's like Keldon Song Speaker.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that
adds
counters.
the counters.
Okay.
Yeah. Similar to that effect here. So you could take something like Song of Freyalise, immediately get the counter. If you went like Song this would get the counter on it, then the next turn it would go off.
Everybody
it ain't over till the Watleys thing.
This is too cheap, and the numbers are too good to not at least test it a lot. Invade the City is next. It's a red and a blue and a generic mana for an uncommon sorcery. Amass X, where X is the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. Oh my god.
So is this a Drake's card?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe like a 1 or 2 of.
Yeah.
Like it's just
massive. You're just making
good.
15/15.
Massive. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just the Cackling Drakes, that I played were like 10 power, 12 power. Invade the City, make it like an 8/8 for 3 mana or whatever. Like, it's a huge payoff. And no, it doesn't count the ones in exile, but that's still okay.
And it's an instant and sorcery for the purpose of the Phoenix decks. Or if you need your 3 instants or sorceries to get it live, there's your one.
Right. I mean, again, obviously it depends on the metagame and blah, blah, blah. But if you're in red and blue and you're in the red-blue spells deck, this is your payoff uncommon. This is exactly what you want to see every single time in your packs, and it is terrific. Leyline Prowler is next. It's black and green.
Her issue is with the name.
And no.
I don't get this. Like,
it's
when
weird.
I think of Golgari,
it's weird.
This can be, minus the Death Touch, it could be a Celestia card. But I'm just looking at this and I'm like, what is Golgari about this exactly?
It's a black and green and generic mana for a 2/3 uncommon Nightmare Beast. It has Death Touch and Lifelink and taps for 1 mana of any color. I don't know. It's underground, clearly.
I don't get it.
It feeds on the dark energies or something. That's what it says.
Or something.
Great.
I guess.
Whatever. I thought your issue was that this prowls ley lines and has nothing to do with ley lines.
No, that's not it, really. I just don't look at this and think Golgari. Like, a Death Touch Lifelink, sure.
Yeah.
2/3, obviously Vampire Nighthawk, an amazing type of card, but why do we need a dork for?
I do think what I would know is that I think the if there's like a 5-color or 4-color shenanigans deck, black-green is like the basis of it.
Sure. Because
you have Death Sprout, and you have this, and you have the ability to get green cards that tap for any color of mana, and you have black that's going to get stuff back from the graveyard if you manage to kill it. That's kind of where it feels like to me, because a 3-mana 2/3 Death Touch Lifelink is already great. Don't get me wrong. But that kind of tap to add 1 mana of any color just feels just okay, I guess.
It doesn't feel very Golgari.
It's fine, but it's powerful.
Yeah.
And it's very playable. Living Twister is next.
I love this card.
Green, red for a 2/5. Green, red for a 2/5. 5 is like a million toughness now. It's a rare elemental For a red and generic mana, you can discard a land card, it deals 2 damage to any target. For a green, return a tapped land you control to its owner's hand.
It's a bit of an engine where if you absolutely need to kill something, you can bounce lands back. And then, we've seen cards like this before. What was it's a red enchantment. Seismic Assault was a thing. There was another version that came out in Origins, I think it was, that was also for 1 red.
Mana Vortex.
Right. So it's not unusual to have this sort of effect of discarding lands for damage, but you can just do it to yourself. Bounce your own land, here's 2. Bounce your own land, here's 2. Or you can burn somebody else with that too. This is a really versatile, fun card. And that art, though, is gorgeous.
Absolutely. You know what's in standard right now? Crucible Worlds.
Yeah.
Dope. Sure. I'm totally living that Crucible life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this is a card that is pushed in terms of stats. A 3-mana 2/5. Again, a 3-mana 2/5. Like, nothing that isn't Murder-esque is going to stop this thing for at least a couple turns because of that ridiculous toughness.
Yeah.
So that gives you the ability to untap and then just kind of go crazy and just start dealing 2 damage to anything. This is a bomb rare and sealed, like a bomb rare. Like, it's really good in draft, but it's insane in sealed because you have all the time in the world to wait, and you have all the time in the world to just dome them or kill off all their creatures. This is the card I want in my sealed deck. This thing is nuts. Mayhem Devil is next. We saw this do some amazing work at the pre-release. A black, a red, and generic mana for a 3/3 uncommon devil. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, Mayhem Devil deals 1 damage to any target.
Any permanent. It can be a treasure token. It can be, a land. Evolving Wilds is still legal in the format. I mean, there's so many ways that you can trigger this, whether it be creatures, whether it be enchantments, sacrificing planeswalkers. It's both of you. So whenever any one of you does this can get obnoxious.
So what you're saying is that we play a black-red deck, and on 5 mana we play Bond 2?
Are you flirting with me?
Is
that what's happening right now? Like,
sounds like mayhem to me.
Oh my goodness.
3/3 for 3 is already going to be fine.
Yes.
Like, we already have, Ram Gang stats. So that's already above curve. Like, usually we're getting either a 3/2 or a 2/3. So to be a 3/3 is the best of both worlds. Plus, we have a bonus. And when we're black-red, we want to be sacrificing things all the time anyway.
Or making them sacrifice like
Or making them sacrifice stuff, absolutely. Yep. So, yeah, this card's amazing.
Like, between Liliana's Triumph and the new Angrath, make them sacrifice whatever you want. Between this being on curve from the new black-red guy.
You could even go turn 2 Flameblade, turn 3 this, and then maybe even throw in Judith for good times. And oof.
I'm telling you, they really pushed Rakdos, and again, saw this thing just crush in the pre-release. Yeah. Like, it was insane.
Great.
Because people want to sacrifice stuff for various reasons, and this is just hanging out. Like, hey.
I will 100% come back to Standard. If there is any sort of viable Aristocrats list, I will do that. And speaking of, I don't know when this is coming out, but if God forbid this comes out beforehand, send me your list for Tuesday, because we're going to be streaming Arena, and I could use some deck lists.
Right.
I
think that we're talking to people back in time. Still send me your deck list
anyways, because if I have a good enough time.
Right. If you have an Aristocrats deck, send it to us.
Yeah.
I'm still interested. I don't care.
Yeah.
Merfolk Skydiver is next. It's a blue and a green mana for a 1/1 uncommon Merfolk mutant that has flying. And when it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. However, for a blue, a green, and 3 generic mana, you proliferate.
Holy hell. So this is a 2/2 flyer. This is a Gaia's Skyfolk at the very worst.
At the worst, yeah.
Or you can put your +1/+1 counter onto an already evolved creature, like a Benthic Biomancer, or grow up one of your other creatures that's already in play. It has flying, which is crazy, and a thing that not every Merfolk gets.
Right.
And it's a mana sink for later in the game.
And Merfolk's always been one of those decks that's been like on the fringe. Like, even when we did our last Arena preview, Emma was one of those people that had written an article about Merfolk, and she spent most of the day playing Merfolk. And again, it's one of those decks that just needs, maybe some of our
magical extra
it needs
something.
That one card, and the meta has to line up in a certain way. But I think that's another one of those decks that, like, we're getting to that last 3 months of the year where we're going to hit peak Merfolk, and it's going to be really.
Well, I know Rolf Levy went 8-2 at the last Mythic Championship with Merfolk.
Yep.
I don't know if this is the thing that puts it over the top, but it's possible. I mean, this is an incredible rate.
Yeah.
This is an amazing sealed card. In Sealed, this is an absolute all-star. Good in draft, but it is insane.
And from a creative standpoint, I love that they're finding new ways to do Merfolk, because historically Merfolks are just known for having this critical mass of lords. Lord of Atlantis, Master of the Pearl Trident, and yeah, they could have done that again, but it's a little tired. And so they're giving us these counters, they're giving us Kumena, they're giving us Proliferate, and still staying true to the Merfolk way of just getting really, really big in your numbers, but not in the old way we're used to, and I like that.
And there's a lot of +1/+1 counters in Merfolk.
Yeah.
Like they run around all over the place.
Or swim.
Oh yeah, they swim. Neoform is next. I love this card. It's a blue and a green mana for an uncommon sorcery. As an additional cost to cast it, you got to sacrifice a creature, and you search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost. Put that card on the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, then shuffle your library.
Really important card in the Prime Speaker Vanifar decks to be able to go get your Vanifars off of whatever 3-drop you play, be it Jadelight Ranger, be it Militia Bugler, which is the go-to for those Bant decks. Neoform is really interesting. We have had Eldritch Evolution, which was similar, not the same. We'll never see Birthing Pod again, but this is one activation of Birthing Pod on a 2-mana sorcery, which we've never seen before.
There's a small section of the community that just wants to pod, and they'll take it any way they can get it, whether it be, Collected Company or Eldritch Evolution or this card. That's all they want to do. And so every once in a while, Wizards throws them these bones of like, all right, girl, this is what you came here for.
Yeah.
All right, we'll humor you. And I think it's great.
It's weird when Wizards... Here's what I think will happen with this ability, right? They screwed it up. They made the most broken version of what this ability is first. They forgot that this is a great ability that people are really excited to do and really want to do, but you can't put it on a broken card.
Yeah.
You have to put it on a fair card.
Yeah.
Because Eldritch Evolution didn't break anything.
No.
But it sure was fun.
Yeah.
This is going to be super fun, and you also have Vanifar, and you also have Fibblethip, which makes your Llanowar Elves do something now.
Yeah.
Like, it's really cool, it's really fun, and I'm glad that Wizards is finally learning, like, hey, this ability is great. Just don't put it on a broken artifact. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Neoform is really sweet. It's not as sweet in Sealed. It's better in Draft.
Right.
And can I just say, I appreciate that they gave this card to a trans Magic player to preview.
It's pretty good.
We're all about changing forms. I think it's great.
Additional +1/+1 counters.
Absolutely.
Leveling up.
I get mine in like a year. It's fine.
Nice. Living your best Neoform life.
Neoform Mafia.
Nice. Niv Mizzet Reborn. And I'm just going to call it right now. There's going to be a 5-color dragons list in Standard. There's going to be. There's too much fixing. There's too much help. There's too much Sarkhan. There's too much Nicol Bolas.
So Sarkhan and Dragon Horde are the key pieces for this. Yeah.
Absolutely. And those also rotate with the core set. So you can get this, last few months of the year. Anyway, Niv Mizzet Reborn is all 5 colors of mana for a 6/6 mythic legendary dragon avatar with flying. And when it enters the battlefield, you reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each color pair, choose a card that's exactly those colors from among them. Put the chosen cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
So by color pair, they mean the guild colors.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you have a 3-color card, you cannot get it with Niv Mizzet.
Got it.
Right. So the dream that I had in my head of, I'll just have 5 Painter Servants in play and draw 10 cards. Nope, they're all the colors. Doesn't work.
No, they can't be the other colors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rakdos has to be a red and a black card. Cannot be 3 colors for whatever reason, or Nephilims or whatever.
Yeah.
But Tappy Toe Claws played this in her Double Dragons deck.
Of course she did.
And it was amazing!
Now, the odds are, so I think I saw her get 1 card, and 2 cards.
Yep.
But you're very likely to just whiff with this card, even in Constructed.
Right.
So this is, but again, it's a 6/6 flyer. 6/6 flying draw card for Wooburg is well worth it.
I'm telling you, between Sarkhan and Dragon Horde, I 100% believe this is the payoff. This is what we were looking for, of not just the Dominaria dragons that are super expensive. Trust me, I know, because I play the dragon deck, and I can't make it work.
Right.
I need Niv Mizzet Reborn to make it work, and it's going to be fantastic.
I'm anxious to know more about the storyline. Like, we knew that Niv was up to something, but Niv has been Izzet for as long as we've known him, and so I'm really interested to see what this I think this has something to do with maybe the eldest Reborn. Like, I'm anxious to see if it's in a similar vein, but it's cards like this that make me want to read the story. I was probably going to read the book anyways, but things like this, I know there were other cards I talked about throughout the day.
Contingency plan was...
I want to know more about this, and so kudos on that.
Now, if you want to run this in sealed, good luck. You might have the luck of Tappy Toeclaw.
Sure.
You know, not all of us do.
There are ways to do it. There's the Firemind's artifact. There's the Geode.
New Horizons.
New Horizons exist.
Paradise Druid. I get it.
There's ways to do it.
There is ways. You got to get a little lucky, but there's ways to do it, and that's fantastic. All I know is I'm excited to play with this in Constructed. I want to build a Dragon deck so we can play with our preview stuff.
I might get out of bed for that card. Like, if it was standard legal.
Another notable thing to note is that Niv Mizzet is now the first character to have 4 different Magic cards named after him.
Yeah.
Wow. That isn't a Planeswalker.
That isn't a Planeswalker.
Gotcha. Oath of Kaya, speaking of Planeswalkers, is next. Black, white, and a generic mana for a rare legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life. Whenever an opponent attacks a Planeswalker you control with 1 or more creatures, Oath of Kaya deals 2 damage to that player, and you gain 2 life.
This was a very controversial card flavor-wise. There were a lot of people that were wondering how Kaya could take the Oath, given the things that she had done previously. You know, can an assassin be good? You know, the way that she sort of usurped the Orzhov Guild and things of that nature. And even in our own Discord, there was some really passionate discourse about this. And I think it's fine. I think Kaya is one of the most exciting Planeswalkers we've had in recent years. Certainly that's one of the reasons why she came back. You know, she started off in Conspiracy as just kind of being, you know, an assassin again, but there was such a huge demand and they put so much time into her in terms of being a black female Planeswalker. And I mean, the card now, Orzhov Usurper, look at that. Surprise hit right there. Sleeper hit in Standard and Modern.
Oh my God, when everybody crapped on that card, remember?
People have been trying it in Vintage, actually. In fact, there's a popular Vintage short named Chubby Rain, and Chubby had been playing a list with Kaya in Vintage, and like, it was doing work in Vintage. Sure. And so, you know, Kaya is just one of the most exciting Planeswalkers out there. I'm glad that she's becoming a part of the Gatewatch, and I'm really anxious to see what this does with her character.
So what you're saying, oh boy, is that she's a bad guy, but she's not a bad.
You can be a bad guy without being a bad guy. You don't get my reference. She hasn't seen Wreck-It Ralph.
Wreck-It Ralph too. Okay, got it. Here's
an interesting card. I watched it on the plane here.
I also watched Wreck-It Ralph on the plane here. What did you think about it?
I loved it, but in particular, I rewound the scene with pancakes and milkshakes.
That was
4 times.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I've just seen the trailer, so I don't know.
Oh my God, it was so funny.
It was really well done. I thought it was. Yes. I'm sorry, we're having a conversation about Wreck-It Ralph 2 right now.
I'm sure I'm glad people paid for this.
How many kids and you haven't seen Wreck-It Ralph?
2.
Oh, just saying.
I've seen the first one. I've not seen the second one.
So what do your kids watch?
Pancakes and Kittens video.
Pancakes and kittens.
Milkshake, pancake.
Right. Wow. Now, I have a question.
Okay.
If there were an Oath of Evan Irwin or an Oath of Aaron Campbell, what would your Oath do? For me, Oath of Mox Ruby, I think mine would have to be 1 red mana.
Okay.
And it would like deal 1 damage to each player or something. Or maybe it's like Colorless and Red deals 1 to each creature and each player.
Okay.
And then whenever like a creature I controlled attacked a Planeswalker, it dealt extra damage or something along those lines. Do you have any thoughts on what yours would do?
I think mine would be kind of like, I mean, just kind of on the spur of the moment, sort of a kind of a Nerc Amoeba or a self-milling type thing, where like whenever you know, like Sidisi almost, whenever a card hits your graveyard from your library, X happens, and it's not a 1-card thing, that'd be too broken, but just an instance where if I hit myself for a mill 3, I mill 3, trigger my Planeswalker, and maybe I would gain some life because I hate losing to burn, or it would be like a damage thing, or something like that.
Huh.
Yeah, I think, you know, Oath of Evan would be like green, white, enchantment. There's a battlefield. You make 3 1/1 creature tokens of some type, not even necessarily flying.
Sure,
just 3 green, 3 creature tokens.
3 creatures.
Whenever you cast a creature spell, if you control 4 or more creatures, make an extra 1/1 creature token.
So it would have to be a Planeswalker because
it would just be
because the Oaths all interact with Planeswalkers.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I didn't think about that.
So, but yeah, I mean, but that works.
All right, well, you can say whenever you cast a Planeswalker, if you control 4 or more creatures, make an extra creature token.
Cool.
Oh, something like that.
Nice.
Kind of neat. Oath of Kaya is really interesting because this is Lightning Helix.
It is.
This is Lightning Helix.
In Orzhov.
In Orzhov, which kind of has happened with Soren Markov, the original, or whatever. And Wizards, they kind of sort of hate when you ask those questions. They're just like, abilities are what abilities are, and sometimes they switch around. Sometimes they're okay, I get it. The point is, this is Lightning Helix, and on top of that, if you dome them with this and they attack you at all, this dealt 5 damage and gained you 5 life for 3 mana.
Yeah, I love the flavor text here. You know, Kaya almost leaning on like a karma attitude to things, where as long as everyone gets what they deserve, but ultimately that means that she's sort of the arbiter of that. Right. And so there's a lot of room for this character to have fun and make a really big impact on the story, and I'm really excited.
Nice.
Wreck-It Ralph 2 was really good. You should.
It was.
Check it out. Right, cool.
Pancake, milkshake, pancake.
No, the bunny gets the pancake. The kitten gets the milkshake.
It is the best. And the look on the bunny's face when
God.
the pancakes come out, he's like, oh, shoot.
Oh, no.
Wow. All right. Well, Pledge of Unity is a white, a green, and a generic mana for an uncommon instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. You gain 1 life for each creature you control.
Look at all the Planeswalkers you see in that art there. You see a Johnny, you see Gideon. Yeah, it's a who's who.
Yeah, this is a monster blowout.
Yeah.
A giant blowout. There's a green wide, play a lot of creatures, go wide strategy. This is exactly what you want. You put counters on everything. You proliferate when you play the 2/3 from Watley.
Yeah.
Woo! It's going to get crazy up in here.
Yeah,
this card is sweet. It's a payoff type of card, not something you first pick. This is the card where you're like, oh my God, I'm in this strategy and they passed it to me. Wham!
Yeah.
That's what you want. Rowell's Outburst is very good. It's a red and a blue and 2 generic mana for an uncommon instant. It deals 3 damage to any target. You look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them in your hand and the other in your graveyard.
Prophetic Bolt, was it?
Yes,
yeah.
Prophetic Bolt. This is cheaper, less damage, fewer cards, but still instant speed, still 4 mana.
Yeah.
Really, really good card.
Right. When you play Goblin Electromancer and then turn 3 you play this.
Sure.
Great. That's good clean living right there.
Feeds into the is it theme of wanting to put things in your graveyard. Bonus if it's like a Chemister's Insight or a Jumpstart card, you're fine with that.
Yeah,
or the Phoenix.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is the giant payoff card for blue-red spells. You're going to play the blue-red spells deck. This is the one for you, and it's killing something and giving you a card, the best card of the top 2, and that's fan-freaking-tastic. Roelesque Apex Hybrid is a blue, 2 green, and 2 generic mana for a 4/5 mythic legendary human mutant. It flies and it has trample.
Why?
Flample. It's got flample.
These Civic cards are just so obnoxious.
Oh, they're god. This thing is amazing. When it enters the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control. And when it dies, proliferate. And then proliferate. Whee!
Proliferate again. Roelesque is a character that was the first product of the Guardian project.
Okay.
It was the known as the first Guardian is what Roelesque is named, and I'm really interested.
This is what Vanifire's been working on.
I believe so. Yes. And it's really interesting to see that in card form. Because I didn't really have a conception of what Roelesque looked like. I know that there are a couple of flavor texts that have Roelesque saying things, but I didn't really know if they flew or if it was just some big brute person, or I didn't have a conception.
I knew nothing about him. Yeah.
And so Roelesque Apex Hybrid, I mean, the name certainly makes sense. The ability to interact with all of these or these counters is crazy. We haven't seen the phrase proliferate, then proliferate again since Contagion Engine. And so that is not a thing that we see a lot on a 4/5 flying trampler for 5. That's a huge
alone
game.
Is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you neoform this, you're proliferating twice, and you're going to go get a 6-drop. Like, this card is amazing. This is one of those where, like, the numbers just keep going up. It's like it does flying and it does trample, and it's a 4/5, and it makes something else bigger, and it proliferates twice. It's just one on top of another, and it's just like, how good do they have to make these Simic cards before you play them?
Oh, by the way, this is a human.
Nice. Gross. Card is great. This is an easy first pick in that, you know what, I'm going to try a Cynic for this draft because this card is basically unbeatable. It's crazy. Role Reversal is next. It's a red and 2 blue for a rare sorcery. You exchange control of 2 target permanents that share a permanent type.
That's delightful. I love the flavor of this, that the Sphinx is suddenly has a cudgel in his hand and wants to fight people, and the Ogre is like, I want to get philosophical.
Yeah, really excellent, and that pays off in the flavor text as well.
This is really handy, you know, in a set with 36 Planeswalkers, maybe you don't have the best one, but you could. So, like, here's your Planeswalker that, you know, here's your your Davriel or whatever, and I'll take that really sweet one you got. Come here, love it.
Yeah, my uncommon has 1 loyalty left or whatever. Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah.
This gives you the upside of any of those interactions because it's just a permanent type, which makes this crazy playable. Like Switcheroo was kind of because there wasn't always a bad creature on your side and a great creature on their side. But now you have any permanent type that you want.
Includes lands.
Includes enchantments. Includes auras.
It's probably best with enchantments because there are so many things like Prison Realm and the Camestra's turn the thing to a frog that you can give to your opponent, but they get no benefit out of it. Meanwhile, you're stealing their best good enchantment. And so I really like Role Reversal. They, again, couldn't have made it any cheaper. I don't think you can put this on a 2-cost anything. And so blue, red's the best you're going to get.
Yeah, it's terrific. It's terrific design, and I love the way it plays, and the flavor is terrific. They really ran with it, and I thought that was great. Rubble Belt Rioters is a green, a red, and a generic mana for an 0/4 uncommon human berserker with haste. Whenever it attacks, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control.
Requires a bit of setup.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
This is your payoff card for red-green, right? This is I played something good on 3. I played something good on 4. Now 5, this has haste, get you.
Right. Yeah. I love the flavor text of Domri saying if the system is broken, break the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Which really, we talked a little bit about the difference between the Gruul and the Rakdos, and the Rakdos really kind of making it about individuals, whereas Gruul, they don't really care about, politeness and manners and hierarchies. It's more about it's a little bit more revolutionary than what the Rakdos are doing.
For sure.
And it's a very fine line, but I love the boxes that they fit in terms of how they both kind of append the system.
Yeah. Solar Blaze is next. It's a white, a red, and 2 generic mana for a rare sorcery. Each creature deals damage to itself equal to its power.
Yeah.
Very neat.
And coincidentally, a lot of the Boros cards don't have that, which is really, really neat. I wonder if that was intentional.
Certainly on Feather and things like they looked back at things like Aurelia.
Yeah, because it'd be really awkward if they died to this.
Even
turn it
Boros
on.
Challenger or whatever.
Even Boros Challenger, for sure.
Right, is a 2/3. So only I think Tajik would get hit with this.
Sure.
But
Tajik protects all of your other creatures from them even taking damage from this.
It's true.
Yeah.
So Tajik basically takes one for the team,
exactly,
as it were. This is a card really interesting. I don't really know how to evaluate this in Standard. Is this a wrath? Is this good enough?
Right. So there are some cards that are similar to this in Magic history that are, that creatures deal damage to themselves equal to their power. We've seen on Wave of Reckoning before.
Justice Strike.
Justice Strike is a card. There was Repentance, I believe, was a card that had this effect. Then there are also cards that have if creatures have a certain level of power, destroy them all. Things like Dusk to Dawn. There are Fell the Mighty, Slaughter the Strong, that care about having low power, high toughness kind of stuff. Solar Blaze, I'm not exactly sure if this is one that's going to get there. Being multicolored is a real strike against this one because those tended to be monocolor, mono white specifically. But it is a 4-mana situational wrath, and those are always worth looking into.
Right. It feels like if there's a Jeskai kind of control deck, this is in its sideboard, maybe it's in its main deck, maybe, depending on the metagame. But if you're playing against a mono red, for example, or if you're playing against something that maybe the zombie deck happens or whatever, I think there's a possibility that sees play.
Yeah.
And I think in Limited, this thing is fantastic because just get yourself in a situation where this card's amazing. And it's not that hard.
No.
It's not
honestly. Soul Diviner is next.
Wow.
Push the stats, shall we? A black, a blue for a 2/3 rare zombie wizard. Tap, remove a counter from an artifact, creature, land, or planeswalker you control, and draw a card.
I mean, we have been covering a lot of cards today, and look how many of these cards have counters on them without even trying. You have the druid in green that you can either proliferate or +1/+1. I mean, there's so little effort it takes to put counters on things. You don't even have to try. And that's something we've said a lot in these videos about when we're judging something's power. If you don't have to go out of your way and it just works, that's good. And this is something that if you're just doing your business, you're going to have counters to remove. And
the fact that this is 2 mana blows my mind. This could have been colorless blue-red or colorless blue-black, been a rare, kept all the same stats, and we still would have been like, wow, this is pretty good.
This is very good, very playable.
Being 2 mana means it's probably constructed playable.
Yeah, I think they pushed this in the constructed world with like the amass deck, and the amass deck kind of needs something to do when it's not amassing.
Sure, firing
so
on all
it's
cylinders.
like, so give me some more cards so I can keep amassing and keep it going. And even like 2 Soul Diviners sounds a little insane when everything's amassing 2 and essentially drawing you 2 cards.
Right.
So it doesn't take much. All I know is this is a great story moment. I love the flavor text, story moment, the picture itself is absolutely fantastic. And this card, we saw it at the pre-release, and it was great. And it was so great, I also think it might be constructed playable at this point. Storev, Devarkan Lich is next. Devkaren, sorry.
I said no worries.
Devkaren Lich is a green 2 black and a generic mana for a 5/4 rare legendary zombie elf wizard. It needed more creature types. It has trample. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, return to your hand target creature or planeswalker card in your graveyard that wasn't put there this combat. That's fascinating.
And I can tell you the reason why, but it seems like you have something to say first.
I didn't like it.
No?
No.
It's a 5/4 trample for 4
It's a little
that
fair.
buys things back. Oh, it is a little bit fair. You're right. This is a
Yeah,
little rocky.
fair.
This is a little rocky as opposed to unfair dredging. The reason why is that Storev is the leader of the Erstwhile.
Okay.
And so the Erstwhile, they've been dead a while.
I know.
Which is why they need to be in your graveyard a while, right? In order for you to rebuy them back. So it makes sense from a flavor perspective that Storev would need to rebuy the old and dusty as opposed to the new hotness.
Oh, I thought it was just so it would create a loop.
That too. I mean, it is, from a mechanical perspective, it's so that you don't create a loop. From a story perspective, it still works.
That's
Do I
great.
have to pay for it?
No.
No, it's free. You get something back for free. You just got to smash for 5 for like 4 mana
I have
card.
to put it in my hand. And then...
You have to put it in. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. This is a...
The good news is you can discard it again later if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, this is a neat way to sort of get those planeswalkers back where you can't, we've talked about all the ways that you can do things with those planeswalkers, whether you sacrifice them to, Heartflame, whether you feed them to a black creature, or you just let them die and then you bring this back and it's a way to get them back. So I get it. It's just a little fair for me, but I think it's good. I can certainly understand why people would play it. And again, at worst, it's a 5/4 with trample for 4.
Right.
Which is fantastic. In fact, so good. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see this in standard.
Same.
Just because they pushed it so hard. Yep. All you need to do is 1 tiny damage to a creature or a planeswalker.
To a player or a planeswalker.
Or to a player, rather, a planeswalker. And you get something back. And that's fantastic. And milling yourself and getting whatever you best mill, that's a thing you can do. So I love it. I like the wording. I love the wording. Even if it's just, no loops or whatever. Right. It's like, no, man, that's just a really cool thing to think about. Was it in there before this combat? Oh, cool. I can get it back. 10th District Legionnaire, which finishes, I think, the
the story that we started with 10th District Guard, and then 10th District Lookout, and then Battlefield Promotion, and now we have the 10th District Legionnaire that effectively has heroic, because this is a heroic storyline.
Very nice. It's a white and a red for a 2/2 uncommon human soldier with haste, and whenever you cast a spell that targets it, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then scry 1.
So we've had this card exactly before in Battlewise Hoplite, except that Battlewise Hoplite didn't have haste and was blue-white instead of red-white.
Right.
That card was constructed playable. This will be too.
Between Feather
and this.
And Samet's Spirit.
Samet's
Sprint. Samut Sprint.
Yeah.
Samut Spirit. No, Samet Sprint.
Close. No, Samet. And Defiant Strike.
And Defiant Strike.
There are the pieces there for a heroic deck without heroic necessarily being in standard, which is kind of great.
That's awesome. Yeah, this card is super good. Super playable in your red-white aggro decks. This is a red-white aggro payoff card. If you're in red-white, this is exactly the cards you want to see, exactly what you want to do on turn 2, and then target the crap out of it for the rest of the game. Time Wipe is next. My God, this is the best wrath I've seen in years. It's a blue, 2 white, 2 generic mana for a rare sorcery. You return a creature you control to its owner's hand, then destroy all creatures.
Yeah, Augur Bolus is being evaluated based on what it was like in old standard, in the last Return to Ravnica standard. And one of the reasons why it was so good was you had Restoration Angel, which allowed you to blink it and get more value out of it. Well, we don't have anything really like Restoration Angel. We do have this. And so if you wanted to bounce your Augur Bolus, do the board wipe, you can then redeploy that on a fresh board and keep doing your thing. And so I think if Augur Bolus is, I think one of the best chances with Augur Bolus is paired with this card. And so I'm really anxious to see if it makes the cut.
I absolutely agree with that. This is a fabulous Wrath. Most Wraths are quote-unquote symmetrical. Usually you're not playing any creatures yourself, like Kaya's Wrath, usually in those Esper control decks, you're just wrathing your opponent's creatures. This one allows you to have one in play. Something like an Augur of Bolas to rebuy, or a Snapcaster Mage to be able to rebuy another Time Wipe, or something along those lines.
You get a loop at that point.
Well, it exiles it, so it's not a loop.
Oh, thank God.
But yeah, I mean, this really lets you not only get those ETB effects again, giving you a second bite at the apple for your 1/8/7s, but also get it clearing the board. Wraths are always playable in Limited, so this is no exception in Draft and in Sealed, and this is probably going to be a piece of at least a 1 of or a 2 of in Constructed. 5 mana is a lot, but we've seen Cleansing Nova, we've seen, Consume the Meek, and those kinds of effects always be playable. Time Wipe's not going to be any different.
I mean, I play Lyra, and you play something that's so good that it might kill my Lyra, or whatever. Okay, I'm gonna pick my Lyra up now, and then bye. Go. Okay,
I
Lyra
played my Lyra as a stopgap solution, but then you followed it up with more Explore creatures and a Carnage Tyrant.
Right.
Now I have Time Wipe.
Now we Time Wipe, and you're screwed. This is very, very powerful. I am curious to see what this does.
And it's a nice way to psych out your opponent. I've certainly been on the aggressive side where, like, I'm swinging in, and then they'll play like a Monastery Mentor in Legacy.
Right.
And I'm just like, you ain't going Terminus. Like, you need that Mentor. But, because you know that. There's a feeling of when you see the control player play a creature, it's almost like they're saying uncle. And so you do feel the sense of like, well, they don't have a board wipe. If they did, they wouldn't have played that creature. You can still play that creature, psych out the aggressive player. They're going to assume you don't have anything. And then you'll be able to like, I will bounce that creature. Like, I will make you think I don't have anything, that I am starting to commit to this board when in reality I do.
It's great that there is a loop in Standard. That card from M19, I think it's Delver of Mysteries or something.
Yeah.
The 5 mana 2/2.
5 mana Salvager of Secrets.
Salvager of Secrets, thank you. And it picks up an instant or sorcery. So you can, Time Wipe, pick it up, play her, get the Time Wipe back, go. So yeah, it's not that, powerful, I think, per se, but it's cool that there is that kind of loop already in Standard if you want to do that. That's pretty neat. Tolsimir, Friend to Wolves. I love Tolsimir. It was one of my favorite cards from the original Ravnica, and we have an amazing version here. It has a white, 2 green, 2 generic mana for a 3/3 rare legendary elf scout, and when it enters the battlefield, you create Voja, Friend to Elves, a legendary 3/3 green and white wolf creature token. And whenever a wolf enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life, and that creature fights up to 1 target creature you don't control.
Yeah.
Wow.
Excellent. I'm glad that Tolsimir and Arlencord get to fight together with their wolf buddies.
Yeah.
Ship it.
5 mana doing all of this stuff feels very Thragtusky. Thragtusk, this is not. But it is 6 power across 2 bodies, 3 life, and removal on a green-white creature. Very good card. Looks a lot like the Professor. Right?
A little bit.
Is that the Professor?
You have the ability to make, again, 6 power, 6 toughness. The gain in life thing, it works with wolves. And whenever a wolf shows up, which Arlen can make wolves, and she already has a great ability on top of that. So, like, there very well may be some kind of very minuscule wolf tribal going on all of a sudden. And, it's time to go search for those wolves in Scryfall, see if you can find something.
That's right.
But this card is amazing. Obviously, if you're in green-white, you high-five your neighbor. If you open this in your opening pack, I'm totally okay going Celestia at that point. You're like, all right, I'll just play the green-white deck. How bad could it be?
Right.
So this is sweet. Definitely on the top end of the power curve. And honestly, I think it's pretty close to Constructed playoffs.
Close.
I think it's right there. If it has enough synergy, I think it will be there. Tyrant Scorn.
Our preview card.
Our preview card. Yay! If you didn't happen to watch the show, when we took a look at this preview card, it was only spoiled for us the morning of.
We made it almost a month. Over a month.
Over a month?
Yeah. Month and a half.
Almost.
Pretty good.
And some prick on Reddit that morning just had to blow it. It's fine. Whatever.
It's too bad.
Because Tyrant Scorn is an
me.
amazing card. It's a blue and a black mana. For an uncommon instant, you choose one. Destroy target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. That's Smother. Or return target creature to its owner's hand. That's Unsummon.
Yeah. So whatever ails you, it has an answer. And this is sort of the lead-in. This is the payoff for the stories. You have Gideon initially trying on the Pegasus. Oketra shoots the Pegasus. He lands on Rakdos. Rakdos says, all right, girl, I'm going to do this one time for you. And then he tries to swing into Bolas, and then the dramatic moment happens where Black Blade cracks and fails, and he does not get to, do this against Bolas. Right. And so that's a huge moment. And this is just a great card. Again, this is one of those cards when you see converted mana cost 3 or less, it screams older formats. And if that's something you can't deal with that way, just bounce it. That's fine too.
Yeah. This was not only a great payoff for the story, but a great payoff for Nicol Bolas's history. The first time Nicol Bolas died was because of a hero with a magic sword. Tetsuko Umezawa, or Teshiro Umezawa, took down Bolas the first time. So a really cool payoff there. This is the climactic moment of the story. Super honored to have been given this card because of how much of a spotlight this was. And it is officially one of the story spotlight cards.
Absolutely. The hero with the magic sword slays the dragon? Not this time.
Not this time.
Yeah, this card is just full of what you want to do in blue-black. In blue-black, you don't want to die in the first couple turns to mono-red. Check. You don't want to die to some stupid monster they play later. Awesome. And you want to counter it when it comes on the way back in. Like, there's a ton of play. It's good early. It's good late.
Bounce your own things. Return target creature. It doesn't have to be theirs.
Oh, yeah. If you want to get another into the battlefield trigger and whatnot, it is amazing. So this card is terrific for what it is.
Would not be sad to first pick this card. Want every single one that I can in my blue-black decks.
And I definitely think this is constructed playable, and we're going to see it a lot. Widespread Brutality. If there's an amass deck, this is in it. It's 2 red, a black, and a generic mana for a rare sorcery. You amass 2, then the army you amassed deals damage equal to its power to each non-army creature.
Jeez.
Each.
Yikes.
I'm telling you, it does not take much. If you haven't seen it in play and happen, amass gets out of control super fast. And just amass 1, play this. You're dealing 4 damage to everything else, and you have a 4/4.
Crazy.
That's incredible. So this is the best Wrath I've ever seen in black and red. This is an incredible way to deal with a bunch of weenies. This is an incredible way to make your, let's say it's a 5/5 into like a 7/7, then just destroy everything else. I love the name. The artwork's great. It just fires on all cylinders.
That baby. Man.
It's all about that baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, such a sad.
And the mom that's worried and stuff.
That's right.
It's really bad.
So now we got
lands.
Nice.
We have the Blast Zone, ladies and gentlemen.
All done with multicolor.
Yeah, we are done with the multicolor cards. That said, my God, for a rare land, Blast Zone enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it. Untapped. Tap to add a Wingy Ding, a colorless mana. XX generic mana, tap : put X charge counters on Blast Zone. 3 generic mana, tap, sacrifice it, destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Blast Zone.
Yeah, if you're playing any sort of lands deck or any deck that revolves around Life from the Loam, you're absolutely going to want this card. It's an uncounterable EE effect that is amazing. The only real downside is it doesn't come into play with 0 counters. You have to put a counter on it, so it can't destroy amass tokens, it can't destroy Moxen or anything like that. But if you have anything like Ramanop Excavator, one of the many ways you can bring lands back, just doing this as a control aspect. This has been discussed in older formats as a way to, for artifact decks to deal with Null Rod. It's painfully slow, but if you are one of those decks that's used to being hated out, a lot of people will keep bad or slow hands against you with that one graveyard piece. And so if you're able to do the Loam thing and be like, all right, girl, in 5 turns, you're not doing anything because you kept that one hate card. And if I just give me time to live, I will destroy that. And it can destroy, anything other than lands. And so it's just wow.
Between Soul Diviner will get the counter off your land, and you can just proliferate this thing up to whatever X that you care about.
Or just doing the old-fashioned way. If you know that they kept a bad hand, give me that many turns and I'm coming for you. I love it.
There's a lot of things that are making the printing of Crucible of Worlds not as confusing anymore. Yeah. This being the chief among them. Blast Zone is extremely powerful. I feel like we say that a lot with this set, but they're twisting knobs in interesting ways to where we haven't seen this kind of power before, and yet they printed it.
Untapped. This is not a comes into play tapped card. Yeah, you could do this and just get to work.
If this had come into play tapped, I think we still would have been oh my God.
Yeah.
This comes into play tapped with a charge counter on it. Oh my God. It's no, you get the land untapped and this incredible ability. You can play it and use it if you have 3 other mana just to immediately get rid of all the 1-drops. That's just, seriously. This is this power level is a lot. Yeah. It's a lot, okay? Living through the world of Magic, playing it for more than half my life at this point. Blast Zone is nuts. This card is great. It's going to be worth $1 million because it's
I
going to be in
remember
every
this one
EDH
actually
deck
leaked.
ever.
This one leaked on a Sunday. I'll never forget it. I'd gone out for breakfast and it leaked in, I think, Italian. I think it was Italian or Portuguese. And I remember I was discussing it in a vintage Discord and we were hoping that we weren't understanding it. So like we were looking at it and we were like, there's got to be a catch. Like it's got to come into play tapped. And someone Googles and they're like, nope, the translation doesn't say that. We were like, oh, well, this has to be a problem. And they were like, nope, pretty sure that's not it either. And we were just like, is it really as good as we think it is? And then when the official preview came out, we were like, oh, it's living up to that. Like, whoo,
it's
bananas.
amazing. I was like, I don't know what to say. It's so freaking good.
Yeah.
This is, if you open a foil of this, just put it in like a vault and come back 10 years later and, like pay your rent with it or something. Like this is the type of card that is going to be in all of the commander decks. I can't express enough how well this thing goes into any of them. When any of them, it goes into any of them and it can answer anything. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Wow. Emergence Zone is next. It's an uncommon land that taps for a colorless mana and 1 generic mana, tap, sacrifice it, You may cast spells this turn as though they had flash.
Yeah, we've had Alchemist Refuge before, which requires blue and green, and I believe it's only instants and sorcery. But for the low cost of 1 colorless mana, you can tap a land and anything. Planeswalkers, the finales we've talked about. If you're playing Wilderness Reclamation, well, there you go. You can bank this mana, as they're wont to do. You crack your Emergence, and you could probably get a finale for 10. It wouldn't be that difficult. This card is wild.
Yeah, speaking of foils you want to stock up on for future commander, I think that this is another one that's going to go in every commander deck.
For 1 mana, you can Crucible it like we talked about and just get that value back. All right, I'm just going to be on Flash for a while. Hope you don't mind.
Yeah, this card is just value on top of value. This is the card that, with Wilderness Reclamation, could make those finales just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, it's great. It's super playable. It's marginal in limited, but it's not unplayable.
No.
And there's still a surprise factor when you go like, okay, sack my Emergence Zone, blop, and you're like, whoa, what were you doing? Like, at the end of their turn, play your monster bomb that you've been waiting on to play. They finally put the shields down, and you're like, wham, got you. That's
colorless
fantastic.
means any deck can play it. Love it.
Yeah, super, super good. Speaking of super good, Firemind Vessel is here, 4 generic mana for an uncommon artifact. It enters the battlefield tapped, but it does tap for 2 mana of different colors.
Another gift for the EDH players out there. I'm on my 6th EDH deck right now, and I've got a pretty good... I feel like I've kind of seen the rocks. I've seen the lockets, I've seen the key runes, I've seen the crypts, I've seen the whatever, Felwar Stone. This is exciting new blood for Commander at 4 colorless.
Absolutely.
Love it. I will absolutely be getting my hands on this.
I mean, I see a number of people playing things like Golem's Eye in Commander. It's just like, that's kind of medium embarrassing for you to be playing that card. But Firemind's Vessel...
Listen, my Zancha deck proudly has one.
Great. I am medium embarrassed for your Zancha deck. Because now you get to run Firemind Vessel instead.
Yay. Absolutely.
Which this card is amazing. If you're doing the 5-color mix-up decks that I always become obsessed with, whenever any format says, hey, 5-color garbage is like a tier 2 strategy.
Alian Trazi's in love with this card.
Oh yeah, for sure too.
Oh my god, yeah. So this is just a great mana accelerator. It gets out your all the Planeswalkers because they have hybrid mana costs. It helps pay for those things. It obviously accelerates you from 4 to 7, which is fantastic. Yeah, it's hard to say anything wrong with this. This is one of those cards that if you get this early, you're looking at more expensive cards in a more positive light. Yeah. You're like, oh, okay, I open Planar Celebration. That's terrific. Let's windmill slam that because now I feel better about casting it. Gateway Plaza is next. This is a reprint from I think was it just Guilds or was it both?
Both.
Was in both. So now it's here for the 3rd time for it's a common land that's a gate and there's the battlefield tapped. You sacrifice it unless you pay 1 generic mana and it taps to add 1 mana of any color.
So the eye of where the planar bridge opened, where the emergence zone was over top of the chamber of the Guild Pact, is where they came into the plane from.
Wow.
And that sent a message, right? We're opening directly over the heart of the heart of the heart of the city, the very thing that is the representation of the guilds. And that is where we're coming in.
Yeah.
All right. So you better watch where we're coming. I really like how they changed the flavor of what it meant to be the Gateway Plaza in the 3rd set. Not just that it's a gate in the Ravnica sense, but a gate in the extra planar sense. I thought that was really clever.
Nice. Yeah, this is just as good and just as playable as it was in the other 2 sets.
Absolutely.
You're not going to pick it early. There's not even a gate theme in this one, so you can't really lean in, as it were. But you'll need fixing. and that's where it goes. Sort of your mid to late pick as usual. God Pharaoh's Statue is next. It's a 6 generic mana uncommon legendary artifact. Spells your opponent's cast cost 2 generic mana more to cast. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses 1 life.
It's a little slow. You know, this was something I thought card decks in older formats would want, but even by the time you could ramp it up, even in older formats, you might still be too late. It costs 4 maybe, but 6 is a lot. Again, this is something I could see maybe in like a commander deck, maybe colorless ways to like stifle folks. Yeah, it's not that great.
It's not going to be played in standard.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a card you want in standard. If you're paying 6 mana, you can get the Immortal Sun. You can play, you know, big splashy planeswalkers, things along those lines. In modern, you have Tron. Now, I will leave it to the Tron experts to decide if they
don't want
want
this either. I was actually looking on Reddit last night.
I was interested if they would want it, but I guess not.
Yeah.
In Legacy, this is Cloud Post or Mud. Something along, you know, something with Grim Monolith
Just
in
a little slow, though.
Again,
you know, Storm can kill you on turn 1 and 2. Like, when even the Cloud Posts are too slow. Like, believe me, I wanted this. Like, I thought it had a lot of the ingredients. When you see the taxing effect, and you see the drain effect, and you think of what cards are capable of, but it's
and
just...
even Shops doesn't want this in Vintage, even though this can get it on turn 1, maybe, or
because they're already running 5 Thorn effects, and so...
Not the one you want.
I mean, it's weird that they made Middle Finger Statue. It's just, it really is.
I didn't even notice that.
I just hate all of you. It's not quite, but it's just
symbolic from a story perspective in that you have...
Right.
So take the middle claw, everybody. Flashing the double claw.
It's symbolic from a story perspective in that you have Both up here. This is Bolas, you know, one of the ways that he's sort of putting his stamp on Ravnica, the things he's bringing over from Amonkhet, and then when he's finally defeated, that the statue is toppled by V2 Ghazi, and then you have the planar celebration. And so it's a pivotal item in the storyline, but I don't think it's going to be one in Constructed. And I can't imagine wanting this in Sealed. Indubitably.
There you go. Indubitably.
Pivotably.
This card is weirdly bad in like every format.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's maybe in Commander, again, if you hate everyone and want them to hate you, you did it. Here we go. Middle finger the statue. Got it.
Crazy.
Guild Globe is next. It's 2 generic mana for a common artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. 2 generic mana, tap, sack, : add 2 mana of different colors.
Finally, Karn with a flavor text, by the way. I don't think we've had a Karn flavor text yet.
He does it on his Bastion.
Right, but we haven't gotten there yet.
Oh.
So what because we've been going through the colors in color order. So I was waiting for Big Daddy Karn to show up to save us all. Same with Ugin, for that matter. Where are our colorless allies to be able to take on this dragon god?
They're coming.
Is it performative allyship?
That's right, exactly. This one is similar to the chromatic sphere, chromatic star.
Right.
It's just 2 of them stapled together, essentially, except for you only draw 1 card. So way powered down, still probably good enough, especially in your 5-color garbage mix-up decks.
It's still good enough regardless.
Yeah,
like at the pre-release, they were running it whether it was a 2-color deck or a 5-color deck. This is worth it. This helps play all of your planeswalkers. All your planeswalkers have different mana costs, and they have hybrids for most of them.
Helps you splash, and it's it basically cycles.
Yes, it cycles, and it helps splash. It helps you fix your mana fixing if you need it. It kind of just sits out there till you need it because it's not giving you a mana advantage. So you can just kind of hang out with your Guild Globe until it's necessary, but at the same time, you got to cycle through it, which is nice. This isn't a high pick in Limited, but depending on how 5-color, how many planeswalkers, how many mana costs you have, this becomes a lot more exciting. Interplanar Beacon is next. It's an uncommon land. Whenever you cast a planeswalker spell, you gain 1 life.
Ooh.
You tap to add a colorless mana. 1 generic mana, tap : add 2 mana of different colors. Spend this mana only to cast planeswalker spells.
Pair this with your Johnny Pride mate.
Right. There you go. This is a really good card. Well, first of all, I really like the flavor behind this card, that the Interplanar Beacon was hiding in plain sight the whole time, much like the Immortal Sun was hiding in the center of New Prav. The Interplanar Beacon was hiding at the top of Nivix, right in the middle of the art for Steam Vents. The whole time the Interplanar Beacon was there. Again, another great way to cast your splashable planeswalkers and a really low opportunity cost on top of that.
Right, and again, and this is what I heard from Wizards R&D when they were talking about, like the idea to be able to splash those uncommon planeswalkers. They need 2 different types of mana. You can make these 2 different types of mana. Iron Bully is 3 generic mana for a 1/1 common artifact creature golem with menace, which means it can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. When it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. This is not exciting, not overpowered, but this is what you want to do with Proliferate. The set is Proliferate.
Yeah. What a strange card to show up. Like, all of these unique things that are happening, all of these individual people that have all of these unique backstories, all of these cool individual things happening, and now we got Iron Bully.
Oh, you even see in the flavor
text. Could have shown up in literally anywhere.
I mean, you see it in the flavor text of the commander going, why would someone have built this? All right, fine, let's get it in.
It's fine.
I mean, and exactly right. It's a 2/2 menace.
Yeah.
Or it helps you build up something else that you have in play. It's fine.
Which is good. Yeah. I mean, this is, again, if you have a Proliferate heavy deck, this is the card that you would lean on to be awesome.
Sure.
And it's just, it's not exciting. It's not necessarily going to win you the game, but it's going to start building to get there. So you can get there, rather.
See, when I look at this, I think of my She-Ray EDH deck, just so I can, like, ETB, put a counter on She-Ray, sacrifice it to some nonsense, ETB, get another counter. Oh, my God.
There you go. Fun. Karn's Bastion is a rare land that taps to add a colorless mana, and 4 generic mana tap : to Proliferate. This is an all-star land. It's great and limited. It's great and constructed. I expect there to be some amount of Proliferate control with a bunch of Planeswalkers. This was weird because it was Cool Stuff's preview, but then they spoiled it as the promos on day 1.
Right.
And we're like, Wizards.
Right. What are you doing?
And they're like, yeah, sorry, it happens. And I'm like, okay, thanks. I guess.
This is a card that's been talked about in Hardened Scales and Vintage as well. You know, artifacts really rely on +1/+1 counters, whether it be Arcbound Ravager, Walking Ballista, Triskelion, Mishra's, Factory, whether it be
Iron Bully.
I mean, Iron Bully. I mean, there's just, you look at Hardened Scales itself, you look at, there's no shortage of ways to put +1/+1 counters on things, and there's also no shortage of ways to get fast, colorless mana. And so if you can do that, Steel Overseer is another one. I mean, this is wild. I mean, a lot of times Affinity, once they kind of sneeze out their hand, they've got a lot of mana to kill. And if you have nothing else going on, just pump your stuff. It's fine. Your Ornithopters are suddenly a threat. Your Memnites are suddenly dangerous. I mean, it's very real.
And the foil is going to be worth $1 million because it's going to go in every Atraxa deck ever. Yep. Atraxa is the most played commander. So, yeah, they made an amazing, amazing land.
Gotta love a land that is colorless that is going to go immediately into the 4-color commander deck.
This whole set has been juiced for Atraxa. Yeah. I mean...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But Karn's Bastion, again, this is a fan-freaking-tastic card. It's good. It's amazing and limited. It's going to be amazing and constructed. It's going to be incredible in Commander. I love it. Mana Geode, speaking of things that are going to look good in foil, is a 3 generic mana. It is the best manalith ever. It's a common artifact that when it enters the battlefield, you scry 1 and it taps to add 1 mana of any color.
The best manalith ever is probably Coalition Relic.
Well, yeah, at common.
At common, sure. Yes, I mean, they're just stapling Scry 1 onto everything. They're just letting us sow our oats with the Scry 1 on everything. I love me a Manolith. I will go out of my way to play garbage 5-color control, even in formats that don't allow for it to happen. And this set will allow for it to happen. So I will be picking many Mana Geodes.
This is Ruben's, garbagey deck card.
Well, it's Ruby's turn to scry. Ruby's turn to scry.
I don't know.
That song is older than some of our viewers. Yeah.
Wow.
You know it, right? Yeah. Thank you.
Mobilized District is next. It's a rare land. It taps to add a colorless mana. 4 generic mana : it becomes a 3/3 citizen creature with vigilance until end of turn. It's still a land. This ability costs 1 generic mana less to activate for each legendary creature and planeswalker you control. That's awesome.
Interesting.
The ability for me to play my Super Friends deck and then just say for 0 mana, this becomes a creature, go. Like,
pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I mean, it makes sense, similar to the argument of control decks. And if you're playing against a control deck, you're probably boarding out your creature removal. Likewise, if you're playing a Super Friends deck, you're probably not expecting them to play any creatures. And then, surprise, they now have a 3/3. And even just a 3/3, we've seen Mutavaults, we've seen Factories, we've seen Blinkmoth Nexuses. Sometimes just a crappy activated man land can get you there.
Pretty much every single creature land, from the worst possible, see play. Like Dread Statuary saw play. Like, we've scraped the bottom of the barrel, and yet they almost always see play.
Yeah.
Even Zoetic Caverns, a little bit, and that's not exactly a man land.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that Mobilized District is going to be no different.
Right. It's hard. Like these days, we don't get a lot of man lands, but there was a point in time which we had a whole bunch with Treetop Village, and we had that awesome first cycle from Zendikar, second cycle from Battle from not that great, but the first cycle was nuts, particularly that Jund deck where like 7 of its lands were also creatures.
Raging
essentially.
Ravine, Stirring Wildwood, and the Abzan list.
Absolutely.
The black-white one, the Vents.
Shambling
Vents, absolutely. Yeah, so the idea that you play X creatures in your deck, well, what if your creatures in your deck were also the lands in your deck? So suddenly you're not having to give up 2 slots. You only give up, you're only taking the 1 slot, but it's also part of your mana base.
And a lot of removal is very careful to say non-land permanent.
Yeah.
How many times have you lost to a man land when you're holding on an Abrupt Decay? It feels terrible.
Exactly.
That's a thing you can do. And that's the power of having man lands in a deck that either doesn't normally run creatures, only runs certain creatures, or just doesn't really have the slots for those creatures. You can let your lands be that way. This is super good. Play it in all of your limited decks. I wouldn't first pick Windmill Slam it or anything, but it's still good. Yeah. It's still going to play. It's going to be in your deck no matter what.
This is a card I want to open in pack 3 every single time.
Just thanks. Yep. Appreciate that. Just a great card.
It's also neat. We talked about how the timing of Avengers coincided with this set. Yeah. This also plays really well with the timing of the movie Us. Without it being a too huge spoiler because it's been in the trailers, there's a very pivotal...
There we go again. Pivotal.
That needs to be a drinking game. There's a very pivotal moment in the movie where joining hands like this is a noteworthy detail. And so I don't think they could have planned it that way, but the movie Us came out shortly before this card was previewed. And that was something people immediately thought of was this an Us? Like, did they know? Like, right.
Well, plus, the flavor text here, sometimes the strongest weapon you can hold in your hand is another hand. The visual is incredible. The spirit of the card is just very emotional. Yeah, it's super emotional type of card on top of being a great card. Yeah. Like, this is sweet.
Yeah.
It's a great
Playing
card.
to the resonance, again, we've talked about how Wizards destroys planes. And a lot of times when you see the people, it's as victims. There's these nameless victims that you feel bad for and that are in the art. But you see widespread brutality. You see the fear. You see the sadness. You see the panic. You see people fighting. You see people saying, this is why I fight. My dad taught me to fight. And you're seeing sort of the compassion come out now of, damn it, we are in this together. We are not going down like that. And just all of these shades, all of these aspects of a plane being destroyed or trying to be.
Yeah, it's really sweet. Prismite is next, a 2 generic mana, 2/1 common artifact creature golem. For 2 generic mana colon, you add 1 mana of any color. Hey, look, Ruben, it's one of your garbage cards.
It is.
That you'll love.
But it's a 2/1 for 2, so it's like already, a brass sable or whatever that was. Beautiful art. Really interesting flavor as well, because it's a brand new type of being that only came together as a result of this chaos, as a result of all 10 guilds coming together. And yeah, I mean, it's going to help you splash. You're not excited to use its ability because it puts a tax on you. But if you have a legend that you're splashing, if you have a big giant planeswalker that you want to put in your, you have some really insane white planeswalker that you want to play in your blue-black deck. Well, Prismite is already going to be in there playing early defense and is going to help you cast that card. So I like this card quite a bit.
No, it's really good. And I could definitely see a world where this is a 1/2 and we're like, it's fine. You kind of like begrudgingly play it because you need to. But no, as a 2/1, it's actually great. You're like, it's on the curve. It's fine. I can still swing in for 2 and maybe it'll help me cast something later. Shahili's Silverwing is next. It is a 4 generic mana. Shahili? Did I say Shahili? God.
Smooth Spirit.
Shahili.
Smooth Spirit, y'all. Sahili's Silverwing, is a 4 generic mana, 2/3 common artifact creature Drake with flying. Whenever Sahili's Silverwing enters the battlefield, look at the top card of target opponent's library.
Yes, Shahili's Silverwing. Super good. You're always going to play this card.
It reminds me of the sister from South Park. Silverwing. Just don't do that.
Wow. Or a gold member from Austin Powers.
All right.
Yes.
I get to read every word on every card.
That's fair. 2/3 flyer for 4 is fine. We've seen a number of 2/3 flyers for 4 already. Being able to get the little bit of information, not super relevant, but you're able to put this in any deck. So 4 mana for a 2/3 flyer. It's a curve filler.
It's your 23rd card.
It's your 23rd card.
You're like, well, it has evasion. I don't have a lot of evasion. It has flying. I don't have a lot of flyers.
Yeah.
that's the kind of the role this thing plays. Yeah. It's not exciting. You're going to get it very late usually, and it might make your deck. Yeah. Our last colorless card created a run.
Yeah, great.
A buyout on Celestial Kieran.
You can blame Saffron Olive for that one. Like,
Ugin's Conjurant is an X generic mana 0/0 uncommon spirit monk. It's important that it's a spirit. Ugin's Conjurant enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, and if damage will be dealt to it, while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, you prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters from Ugin's Conjurant. I like the fact that they actually paid attention to if you put something that like boosted its power and toughness and it loses all of its counters, it can die at that point, because it says specifically if it also has a counter on it and takes damage. That's really cool.
As opposed to the old Phantom Centaur trick where you just put an Armadillo Cloak on it and it never dies.
Exactly.
This would actually still die.
So for those who are playing along at home, Celestial Kieran is a card that lets you destroy all permanents equal to the converted mana cost of a spirit that you cast. And so if you play this for 0 and your lands have a 0 mana cost, you get an Armageddon.
Right. And Celestial Kieran costs 2 colorless white, so there's technically 4 mana 2 card, but 4 mana Armageddon in the format now, which is why there was a run on the card, and they are unavailable everywhere.
Celestial Kieran is only legal in, it's Modern above, right?
Modern, yeah.
Yeah, it's in Modern. It's in Saviors, so that means...
Armageddon's in Modern, isn't it?
No. Armageddon?
Armageddon?
All right, okay.
It's not.
It's not.
Because we would have seen it.
It's also not in Extended.
No.
Like, I don't think it's been printed since, like...
He said Extended.
5th edition.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a
Extended. Shake your cane, Ruben.
The point is, this can go into any deck. This is basically the ultimate mana sink.
Yeah.
This is a terrific creature. Like, I saw this thing in play at the pre-release. Like, it was a house. Sure. Like, they were just jumping it, just trying to get it down. It started out as a 5/5 for 5, and it's like, okay, now it's a 4/4. Okay, smash, now it's a 3/3. Like, that became a problem they had to deal with. So, this will go into basically any archetype, any deck. If you don't see something in particular that you want in the pack, just take this. It's just good.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And speaking of fantastic, that's the set review. And that is the end of all of the gold, the colorless, and artifact cards.
And the lands.
And the lands in War of the Spark. It's been quite the journey. We only have one leg left.
That's right.
That's
all. It's quite a leg. It's a leg day leg.
We definitely saved the best for last, I think.
We need to do our squats before we do this next video.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Yes.
Super good.
Thank you for washing.
Change walkers.
Nope. Can't. Nope.
That said, it has been great to go through all these cards. Thank you guys so much for not only supporting us, for making this thing happen, but also watching this far if you have. But until next time, I'm Evan Irwin.
I'm Aaron Campbell.
And I'm Ruben Brushler.
And we'll be back with the final part of our War of the Spark complete set review very soon.